Hello and welcome. Namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next 30 minutes. Leaders gather at Rio de Janeiro for the 17th BRICS Summit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Brazilian President Lula share a warm hug during a family photo. BRICS leaders unanimously condemn Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam terror attack, reaffirm commitment to combat terrorism in all forms, including cross-border terrorist attacks. And US President Donald Trump says good chance of a hostage deal as he'll hold talks with Israeli Prime Minister in Washington. Netanyahu says talks could help advance Gaza's ceasefire deal. Heads of state and government from the 11 BRICS member nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa and Egypt, as well as Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran and United Arab Emirates and Vietnam gathered for the traditional family photo at the 17th BRICS Summit in Rio. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva shared a hug after the family photo at the 17th BRICS Summit in Rio. This is, of course, day 2, where a session on climate, COP30, and global health took place soon after this family photo, which had not only representatives of all the members, the 11 members, but also the invitees as well joining in. So this is an expanded view of all those gathered, the top leaders gathered in Rio for the BRICS, the 17th BRICS Summit, and in a way represents a global south in an expanded format that the BRICS seems to be now mirroring. We're also on day 2 of the BRICS Summit that is being held in Rio, Brazil. Its President Lula da Silva emphasized climate justice, a just energy transition and global health equity. He reaffirmed the Global South's leadership in sustainable development, citing initiatives like the Forests Forever Fund and the adoption of the BRICS Climate Finance Framework Declaration. President Lula also highlighted the urgent need to halt deforestation, end fossil fuel use and secure $1.3 trillion for green transitions. He also called for strengthening the World Health Organization, fair access to medicines and ending health inequities through the SDG 3 agenda. The launch of the BRICS partnership to end socially determined diseases underscored his vision of inclusive development rooted in dignity, science and South-South cooperation. And we've had Prime Minister Modi's intervention as well in that session itself, where the PM has also defined BRICS, because India will take on the presidency of the BRICS next from Brazil, and he's defined BRICS as building resilience and innovation for cooperation and sustainability. So the acronym has been sort of redefined, and it encapsulates how India will be leading or taking the BRICS agenda forward when it takes on the presidency next year. Apart from that, the leaders of the BRICS countries also met in Rio on the 6th of July. This was the start of the 17th BRICS Summit. It had a theme, strengthening global South cooperation for a more inclusive and sustainable governance. Earlier, leaders issued a 31-page, 126-point joint declaration condemning terror attacks, including the Pahalgam terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir on the 22nd of April earlier this year. The leaders reaffirmed commitment to combating terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, including cross-border movement of terrorists, terrorism financing and safe havens. They urged zero tolerance for terrorism and rejected double standards in countering terrorism. They also called for an expeditious finalization and adoption of the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism in the UN framework. They called for concerted actions against all UN-designated terrorists and terrorist entities. Again, in the 31-page joint declaration, BRICS leaders also advocated for a comprehensive reform of the United Nations, including the UN Security Council. The leaders reiterated support for a comprehensive reform of the United Nations Security Council with a view to making it more democratic, representative, effective and efficient, and to increase the representation of developing countries in the Council's membership so that it can adequately respond to prevailing global challenges. They also stressed that the United Nations Security Council reform will lead to amplified voice for the Global South. The leaders reiterated support to the aspirations of India and Brazil to play a greater role in the United Nations, including in its Security Council. So let's talk about it a little more in terms of how the BRICS has articulated the Global South position on a wide variety of matters. We have with us Rajiv Kumar Bhatia, former senior diplomat, joining us. Good evening to you, Ambassador Bhatia. What do you make of how BRICS and also India, other top leaders, have articulated the issues that the Global South has been facing, especially where reform of global institutions is concerned, the response to the climate challenge is concerned, terrorism as well, and of course the kind of challenges that have been cropping up ever since Donald Trump became President of the United States for the second time around?
This was a crucial 17th BRICS summit. There were apprehensions before it started whether the expanded members of the BRICS family would be able to reach some solid conclusions based on a consensus. I think the summit participants have defied the naysayers, and as a result, they have been able to produce the RIO Declaration, which is very substantive with its 126 paragraphs. This is very encompassing in nature. As you rightly pointed out yourself in the brief, quick summary, it is commenting on both the political and economic challenges that face the world today, particularly the Global South. On the political side, it has focused attention on reform of global governance institutions. And I would like to highlight that in the particular paragraph that deals with UN Security Council, there is some improvement from the Indian perspective if we compare this formulation to the formulation last year at the Kazan summit in Russia. Instead of talking about bigger role in Security Council for BRICS countries, it has specifically highlighted the role of India and Brazil, and this is something very good. I can also point out that this is a very happy coincidence that in 2023, India handed over the G20 presidency to Brazil, and now in 2025, Brazil would be handing over the presidency of BRICS to India. On the aspect of terrorism, I think there was much interest in India as to how BRICS countries would deal with this. I think they have provided full satisfaction to India by condemning the attack in Jammu and Kashmir in the strictest possible terms, strongest possible terms, and presenting a proper productive pathway as to how to deal with international terrorism plus cross-border terrorism. Finally, on the economic side, I think BRICS has set the whole record very clear. It will continue to work on cross-border payments, but there is absolutely zero mention of the so-called BRICS currency, which we always knew and contended. The idea did not even exist or was floated, and therefore we can be quite clear that BRICS is sending a realistic message about the rejuvenation, about the projection, and about protecting the interests of the Global South.
Right. And we also did not see any direct mention of the challenge on tariffs, but without naming the US, we did have a very clear-cut condemnation of what's been happening in terms of the action against Iran, as well as the situation in Gaza. What do you make of that, sir?
Yes, you are absolutely right. On the tariffs, I think the reference is very much for the reform of WTO. There is a stress that WTO has to perform much better, and that is only possible when the voice of Asia and Africa and the other parts of global South gets reflected into its governance and in its leadership. Uh, Obviously, there was no question of taking on the American idea of tariffs directly. Everybody has to use diplomacy to deal with that. As far as Iran is concerned, it is important to note that Iran is now a member of BRICS. And so we knew beforehand that Iran would expect very strong support from BRICS on the military strikes that were launched against Iran. So in the declaration, in the RIO Declaration, without naming the authors of the military strikes, Iran has received comfort because BRICS has again condemned it strongly and suggested that nuclear facilities which are under IAEA safeguard should be protected rather than be destroyed. So it's very clear that BRICS has adopted a very principled approach on this subject as well.
Right. So we have then, of course, to look forward now to India's chairship of the BRICS summit as well, which will happen next year. And India has already said that it will sort of redefine BRICS in a way that it is more inclusive. Specifically, what Prime Minister Modi said is that he's given a new acronym for BRICS, and he's very clearly said that BRICS will be all about building resilience and innovation for cooperation and sustainability. Prasar Bharati, thank you so much for joining us from Toronto in Canada.
Thank you.
Now, on day 2 of the BRICS summit, Prime Minister Modi affirmed that under India's upcoming BRICS chairship, the country will promote close cooperation as far as the BRICS countries are concerned. And in fact, all key issues will be covered, and it will work to redefine BRICS as building resilience and innovation for cooperation and sustainability. Drawing from India's inclusive G20 leadership, he emphasized making BRICS more people-centric and rooted in a humanity-first approach, while ensuring the Global South's priorities remain central to the forum's agenda in the coming year. And during the BRICS summit, or on the sidelines of it, Prime Minister Modi also met his Vietnamese counterpart, Pham Minh Chinh, at the BRICS summit in Rio, Brazil. The Prime Minister also met with Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel. Again, on the sidelines of the summit, the two leaders warmly greeted each other. Both the leaders covered a wide range of subjects during their talks. Prime Minister Modi also held a bilateral meeting with his Malaysian counterpart, Anwar Ibrahim. Malaysia has a key place in the vision of Mahasagar that India has in Act East policy. The leaders reviewed the ground covered in the bilateral relationship, including the progress made since Prime Minister Ibrahim's visit to India last year. And as far as certain developments are concerned in Washington, D.C., South Africa's Foreign Ministry spokesperson has said the BRICS group should be seen as a push for reformed multilateralism, nothing more. This statement has come after U.S. President Donald Trump accused BRICS of anti-American policies and threatened an extra 10% tariff on countries aligning with it. Meanwhile, the Kremlin has said that the BRICS group of nations had never been working to undermine other countries.
We have indeed seen such statements by President Trump, but it is very important to note here that the uniqueness of a group like BRICS is that it is a group of countries that share common approaches and a common worldview on how to cooperate based on their own interest. And this cooperation within BRICS has never been and will never be directed against any third countries.
So that's the articulation that BRICS nations have as far as Donald Trump's threat is concerned. We'll have to see what Trump does from the Oval Office a little later tonight, because he's expected to be issuing letters related to tariffs as well. Although the threat of imposition of tariffs on nations where trade deals have not been made, the deadline rather was the 9th of July, but now it's been pushed to the 1st of August. Now, moving on, Kenyan police opened fire on a charging crowd of protesters in Nairobi on Monday and sealed off major roads into Nairobi city centre, deploying anti-riot units near Parliament, State House and key intersections. Shops remained closed and streets were unusually deserted, sparking tension across the capital. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Death toll reaches 82 in the US's Texas due to catastrophic floods. Several regions in Asia also remain under adverse weather conditions. And the world celebrates Chocolate Day today.
I love the atmosphere of the yatra. So many people from each part of India, and it's like everybody, we're in the same community. No difference between people, and it's wonderful. We go all together for the same goal, to see the cave, to feel the atmosphere of the cave.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, EU spokesperson Olaf Gill has said on Monday that European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and US President Donald Trump had a good exchange on Sunday, adding that the EU's aim remains to reach a trade deal with Washington by the 9th of July. The Trump administration has said letters would go out notifying trading partners without a deal by the 9th of July of higher tariffs that would take effect on the 1st of August.
We want to reach a deal with the US. We want to avoid tariffs. We believe they cause pain. We want to achieve win-win outcomes, not lose-lose outcomes. Progress has been made towards an agreement in principle. We consulted with our member states on Friday. Our president talked to the American president yesterday. And we are working hard, all parts of the machine, towards getting something over the line by the 9th of July.
Ursula von der Leyen is to face a European Parliament no-confidence vote on Thursday in the latest challenge to the European Commission President. It would be the first time since 2014 that the head of the Commission has faced such a move. However, the vote will mainly be symbolic, as she is expected to survive the vote. Now, in the latest developments from the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Ukrainian authorities have reported that Russian forces have launched drone strikes targeting critical infrastructure, with a series of precision attacks hitting Kharkiv, the country's second largest city. According to Ukrainian officials, 27 people were injured and a fire broke out in a multi-story residential building following the strikes. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military has confirmed that a Russian drone attack also damaged a draft office in Zaporizhia. There has been no official comment from Moscow on these operations. Russia has consistently maintained that its military actions are aimed at strategic targets. Now on to the issue where Gaza is concerned, where US President Donald Trump and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are scheduled to meet at the White House later on Monday. This is Israeli Prime Minister's third visit since Trump returned to power in January to Washington, D.C. The hope for a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza is riding high, as Trump has said there was a good chance of a hostage deal ahead of Netanyahu's meet. Indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas were underway in Qatar on Sunday, which sources say ended inconclusively. Still, Donald Trump said the United States was working on a lot of things with Israel, including probably a permanent deal with Iran.
I think we're close to a deal on Gaza. We could have it this week. I think there's a good chance we have a deal with Hamas during the coming week, pertaining to quite a few of the hostages. Yeah. You know, we've gotten a lot of the hostages out, but pertaining to the remaining hostages, quite a few of them will be coming out. We think we'll have that done this week.
While leaving for the U.S., Netanyahu also believed his discussions with Donald Trump on Monday would help advance talks on a Gaza hostage release and ceasefire deal. The first session of indirect Hamas-Israel ceasefire talks in Qatar ended inconclusively, adding that the Israeli delegation didn't have a sufficient mandate to reach an agreement with the Hamas. Netanyahu's office said in a statement that changes sought by the Hamas to the ceasefire proposal were not acceptable to Israel. And before leaving for the U.S., Netanyahu said he believed he and Trump would also build on conflict with the Hamas and Iran.
This is an opportunity to expand the circle of peace far beyond what we could have imagined before. We've already transformed the face of Middle East beyond recognition, and we have the opportunity and ability to change it even more and bring a great future to the state of Israel, the people of Israel, and the entire Middle East. We are working to achieve the deal that has been discussed under the conditions we have agreed to. I've sent a team to negotiate with clear instructions. I believe the conversation with President Trump can definitely help advance this outcome.
Now, from storms to volcanic eruptions, natural disasters have brought life to a standstill across Asia, leading to evacuations and closure of businesses. More details in this report.
Natural disasters have been taking a toll across Asia as climate change makes the weather more and more unpredictable. Typhoon Dennis lashed southern Taiwan with heavy rains and strong winds in a rare hit to the island's densely populated west coast. Over 3,000 people have been evacuated due to the typhoon, which has triggered at least 10 landslides. The storm has also forced closure of businesses and schools. Buildings, including a temple, have been damaged. Taiwan is frequently struck by typhoons, but they generally land along the mountainous and sparsely populated east coast. Eastern China has also been on high alert due to the typhoon, with Coast Guard officers assisting fishermen in evacuation plans. Dozens of residents have evacuated remote islands in southern Japan that have been shaken by nearly 1,600 quakes in recent weeks. While no significant damage has been reported on the hardest hit Akoseki Island, the almost non-stop tremors since June 21st have created panic among locals. Experts believe an underwater volcano and flows of magma might be the cause. They have been unable to predict how long the tremors will continue. Situated on the Pacific Ring of Fire, Japan is one of the world's most earthquake-prone nations. In Indonesia, a volcano erupted just weeks after it caused dozens of flight cancellations to and from the popular resort island of Bali.
We all panicked because the eruption has been going on since earlier. It's really made us panic. And in my opinion, this is the biggest eruption so far.
Local officials have warned of hazardous debris flow from the volcano into nearby residential areas, which are also close to rivers. Indonesia has more than 120 active volcanoes. Bureau Report, DD India.
Sports now. In the auction of the Delhi Premier League for both the men's and women's editions took place in Delhi, reflecting the league's rising profile. DDCA Director Shyam Sharma spoke to DD India's Narayan Singh and called it a big moment for cricket.
For the second edition of the Delhi Premier League took place in Delhi, and right now I am joined by the DDCA Director Shyam Sharma ji. Sir, a very warm welcome.
Thank you.
the auction took place, and it's we can say that the Delhi Premier League now is a big brand in the world of cricket. So how you took up this challenge and converting into a big brand?
In fact, it was a vision of Mr. Jaitley. When he took over as a president, he wanted to give a platform to the youngsters where the talent can be nurtured, talent can be hunt. So that was his idea, which is effectuating into this premium league, and it was very successful. I must say that our first edition was very successful. Three, four of our players like Priyansh Arya, Ayush Badoni, Digvesh Rathi, Vansh Bedi, they were identified by the senior cricketers as the future of India. And many other players excelled, like Himmat Singh, Anuj Rawat, they excelled very well. So this is a platform which has been given by Mr. Jaitley, and we all worked for that. 14 of our players went to IPL this season, and DPL was the reason for that. So we hope that in this season also a lot of youngsters will excel in DPL, so that the IPL team will take them, and then the route for the national team is easy and smooth for them.
As we saw that the Delhi Premier League has become a factory for the talented cricketers, and many talented cricketers were there in the IPL too. So talking about the Women's Premier League, as we are seeing that it's a big push for the development of the women cricket. 13-year-old, 14-year-old were in the auction. So how you look this thing that the Delhi Premier League also giving a platform to the young women cricketers?
I think we are the second league, second state which has introduced the women league, and we have taken the lead from the BCCI. It was the initiative of BCCI. Mr. Jesha was the secretary at that time, when they increased the fees, the test match fee of women cricket equal to the men. So, and they started the WPL along with the IPL. So that was the lead we have taken, and we said we should also provide a platform to the young girls to make it as a career. And we are happy that a lot of our coaches are coming to us and informing us that the parents are sending their young girls like 10, 12 to the cricket academies to make it choose as a career.
So definitely a great initiative, but the DDCA, as the director of the DDCA, Shyam Sharma ji, said that they are trying to bring the women's cricket at the same level of the men's cricket. So it's a good initiative, and in the coming times we will see that it will become a more inclusive league. With camera person Anil, Narayan Singh, DD India, Delhi.
And today is World Chocolate Day. The day is celebrated as the anniversary of the introduction of chocolate in Europe in 1550. As people celebrate World Chocolate Day worldwide, let's just take you to the heart of the Vietnamese capital, that's Hanoi, where visitors are experiencing the chocolates with a Vietnamese flair. All right, we have some images coming in of key bilaterals taking place. As you know, Prime Minister Modi has had several bilaterals on the sidelines of the BRICS summit, and here we have a bilateral that is taking place with Bolivian President Luis Arce on day 2 of the BRICS summit. So India expanding its engagement with Latin America. We've already seen Prime Minister Modi. He is, of course, in Brazil, but before that he's visited Argentina as well, met Javier Milei, and now he's meeting the Bolivian president as well. And I'm told that the next bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the BRICS summit on day 2 is going to be with the leader from Uruguay. You can see some gifts also being exchanged there by the leaders, and a very hearty and warm handshake too. So that's the latest that is coming in from the BRICS summit in Brazil's Rio that Prime Minister Modi is attending. India will be chairing the next BRICS summit as well. So the PM has also laid down the line on how things are going to be taken forward from Rio to India as well. When that happens, the summit happens in India, we'll keep you updated on that front as well, because there are still developments that are unfolding as far as Rio are concerned. Taking it forward will be my colleague Tanvi Taneja. That's it from me and our team for the moment. But the rolling coverage of the BRICS summit and a lot else that is taking place in the world will continue right here on DD India. So do keep watching.